Hey everyone, I'm Nicole,
And I'm Gabrielle.
and we are the hosts of the Spiritual Sisters podcast.
Join us every week as we discuss all the spiritual topics like astrology, mediumship, psychic insights, and so much more.
We are often joined by others we have met along our spiritual journey who are well versed in many of these areas.
Get ready for enlightening discussions and interviews and personal experiences that we hope will expand your mind and get you thinking outside of the box.
Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just beginning your spiritual journey, there's something here for everyone.
Check us out every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts. See you then.
Bye!
Welcome back, guys, to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast. I am your host, Anna Rising, and on this podcast, we discuss all things soul contracts and sometimes intuitive messages and spiritual girly things. And today I have a very special guest that I would love to share with you and introduce to you. It is somebody that I have found through threads, and I was like, okay, we're instantly clicking because we're very much in the same mindset and kind of idea of what's going on in the world and like our career job. So everybody, this is Mallory. She is a holistic health practitioner, and we are going to chat a little bit about what she does, how she came into this line of work, and the themes that she has seen popping up for her throughout this line of work. And then we're going to, at the end, just wrap it up with a little insight into her soul contract, because I love doing that. I feel like soul contract work attracts a lot of spiritually minded business women, especially. And I'm very, very excited to see how that's manifesting for her in her current incarnation. Welcome, Mallory.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about what I do. I am a certified Reiki practitioner and also a certified integrative health practitioner. Some people don't understand what Reiki is. It's basically energy healing. I focus on healing people's energy centers or chakras. To sum it up, there's way more that goes into it, but to sum it up, and then with my integrative health practitioner certification, that's obviously an integrative approach. It entails different practices from alternative, quote unquote, like alternative medicines. So I include things from Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine. I offer functional lab testing. There's certain aspects of naturopathic medicine. So it's really just, I feel like the best of all the holistic type medicines. And that way you can get like a full picture. You can get the best of everything. And in my practice with that, we cover everything from learning about the importance of nutrient-dense foods, from the type of products that you're using, like the type of environmental toxicants that exist and that you should try to avoid. And then also thought patterns and mindset, like literally everything. We cover everything, because healing is not like, you can't heal based off of like focusing on one thing. It has to, you have to focus on everything. So that's what I do. I try to get the whole picture is what I do in my practice.
There's so much there already. I remember specifically, as soon as you started talking about traditional Chinese medicine, I'm like, I am so in. There is I believe it's a traditional Chinese medicine book, Woman Heal Thyself, that kind of got me into that path where I started learning like all of these like acupressure points to like either jumpstart like your period, like make your period come on time, or like end your period early. And then there's a wealth of knowledge. I highly recommend that book and traditional Chinese medicine in general. I feel like there is so much wisdom in any modality. And I haven't told you this before, but I've worked in a homeopathic doctor's office before, and it was absolutely wild. This is why I was so on board immediately with your message and everything that you were posting, because I'm like, yeah, homeopathic medicine works wonders. Like, I have seen client after client after client come in to the homeopath that I was working with, and usually people go there like as a last resort. They're like, okay, like this like medical system has failed me, like I don't know what else to try. I don't want to be hooked on pills for the rest of my life. So it was absolutely wild to see how people found a way to heal their bodies, like on an energetic standpoint, because I feel like that's what homeopathic medicine does. Like, it's very much like, yes, it's supplements and like homeopathic medicine like is, I mean, at least the one I'm familiar with is like a lot of sugar pellets that have like the tiniest dose of certain herbs and like potencies of these herbs, and it kind of just like nudges your body in the right direction in regards to what it is that your body needs to work on and to like process. And I personally, I just have had the most insane experience, and I have the craziest stories from this doctor's office. I'm not going to bring it all up there, but to give you a picture, guys, of how I can like attest to the power of homeopathic medicine, I had seen my doctor that I worked for, because she's the best. I had seen her following a miscarriage that I had a very hard time processing. I was having like the worst cramps after it because I was waiting for my body to process the miscarriage, because it was a missed miscarriage. And the hospital that I went to like gave me, I think it's OxyContin. They gave me like really strong pills to help with the pain, and it was barely putting a dent into it. And then my doctor's like, okay, like she subscribed me some sepia. I mean, it's not subscribed. She recommended I take some sepia. And I was absolutely floored that these 3 sugar pellets started to like dissipate the pain in such a gigantic way. Like it was so much better than the OxyContin. And I feel like it's because my body needed that. So that's the story I have about the power of homeopathy. I highly recommend. I feel like everybody needs to dabble at least a little bit in homeopathy, homeopathic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, all the good stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think all like alternative medicines like have something good to offer. I don't think one type of medicine has all the answers, but like we have all these different medicines. So like it's every form of medicine has something to contribute to the conversation. I don't care what anyone says. There's benefits to all of them. There's drawbacks to all of them, but I love homeopathy. Oh my gosh, I use that so much. I discovered it a few years ago. My naturopathic doctor put me on homeopathy, and I've just been kind of like learning about it myself too. Oh my gosh, it is a lifesaver. A lifesaver.
Yes, I have batted off many a cold with my kids, many like nervous breakdown, like you just give them some chamomile, and it's so, the potency is like so like small that it can't like harm them in any way. It just nudges them into a state of like relaxation, or like for their body to start doing their healing. And yeah, obviously we're not saying that like homeopathy and holistic medicine is the only way to go. I feel like for some reason, surrounding different kinds of medicine, especially, everybody always goes to one extreme or the other, where it's like, no, you can't possibly. And I was one of those people. So when I say everybody, I was like, I mean me. I used to be very, very like extreme. I'm like, no formula, like very holistic, only organic, blah, 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 blah. And I've since learned that that's a dangerous approach to really anything in your life, especially revolving medicine. Like a good balance is needed. So I love, 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 love that you mentioned that you can kind of get something from everything, get a little piece of wisdom from every modality.
Yeah, I think in today's society, like in the patriarchal society that we have, it's just so much black and white thinking. It either is or it isn't. There's like no nuance ever, especially when it comes to more like holistic medicine or alternative medicines, because it's a lot of the time discredited across the board. And like I said, I mean, it's just like there's just so much nuance that goes into it. Like I don't see people ever saying that like, oh, this one form of medicine is like the only form of medicine that you should use. I mean, it's rarely that, but people just assume that if you're more holistic minded, that you don't think you should use like allopathic medicine ever. I don't know. It's just so crazy, just that black and white thinking, and it drives me nuts sometimes.
Yes, let's talk about that, because I feel like I've heard a little bit of history, a little bit of where that kind of started with pharmaceuticals, and how oh man, Rockefellers tried to discredit like chiropractors, tried to discredit herbal medicine because you can't really profit off of herbs that you can grow in your garden. So yeah, do you have thoughts on that?
Yes, I have like a whole history lesson. So modern medicine as we know it now, I mean, it's been evolving for like thousands of years at this point. So even in the like ancient times, like ancient Greece, Egypt, like those types of things, especially when it comes to like women in medicine, because a lot of times women currently get dismissed in allopathic medicine because we're understudied, things like that. We're just dismissed all the time. That started forever ago. I mean, even Egypt was like, okay, they kind of acknowledged that like when a woman is menstruating, like it was seen as like a spiritual type thing. And from what I have found is that people would actually consume like menstrual blood. I think they would mix it with wine or something. And they thought it would give them more like spiritual powers.
And it has stem cells, right?
Yes, we just found out that there's like stem cells. And I think that's part of the Egyptians like thought like they found it to be healing or something along those lines. And even the Romans, I think they kind of acknowledged it as purifying, but they were also kind of like scared of it. They also kind of feared that it was toxic. But then we get to like ancient Greece, and then we have Hippocrates. He's the one who kind of came up with the idea of hysteria, as you know, we know that word, and that actually stems from the word hystera, which translates to womb. So do what you will with that information.
Wow.
And he's the one who came up with the idea that women get like certain ailments because of he thought that their womb like wandered like in women's bodies. I mean, that's an idea. So there was that.
Why there was like this thing where when trains were just invented, they were like, oh, you can't possibly, or was it cars, that women couldn't ride trains or cars because then their uterus would like fly out or something? Is that where that came from?
I have never heard that. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't put it past. I wouldn't put it past
like
anything.
If they think that it's just traveling around everywhere, maybe they're like,
I know, okay. It's just flying everywhere. It can fly out anything. Like, I don't know. But that was a crazy suggestion on his part for sure. Mm-hmm. And there was Aristotle. He claimed that women were colder and biologically inferior to men due to their role. They thought their role was limited to like nurturing the male seed. So that was just basically nurturing the male seed, and that was the only role that women played. So that's like the root of like medical misogyny, in my opinion. And then we get to the Middle Ages, and I love talking about the Middle Ages because I feel like that's when patriarchy really kind of like exploded, I guess. I don't know. I feel like because like the church, certain things like that, like, you know, religion became pretty big and major. The role in like medical misogyny from the Middle Ages, oh my gosh, it's a lot. So I really love the book. It's called Witches, Midwives, and Nurses by Barbara Ehrenreich.
I was hoping you would touch on this.
Do you know that book?
No, I don't know that book, but I was hoping that you would touch on the fact that a lot of the witch trials stem from them persecuting midwives. Mm-hmm. It's the midwives that they considered witches because they were so in tune with the female body. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad. Go ahead.
Yes. So that book, and Deidre English, she's the other author, but this whole book just kind of talks about all the different healers in the Middle Ages. And so the women healers of that time, they were the people's healers. They were taking care of the peasants, the poor people, because the wealthy people, they had physicians. The physicians were for the more wealthy people, you know, and obviously we all know the witches weren't actually witches in the witch trials. It was midwives. It was like folk healers. It was anyone with a holistic healing practice, really, anyone who didn't have a formal education. So there were a lot of like women accused of witchcraft when in reality it was just women pretty much helping poor people. And it's really interesting because these women didn't have like formal training, formal education. They weren't allowed to get formal training and education. I mean, it's not like they had like textbooks to go off of. So they were just going off of like their intuition, wisdom passed down from them, experience, and they were able to heal people doing that. And it was a quote from the book was that she relied on her senses rather than on faith or doctrine. So I think it's interesting because, you know, patriarchy, it's very black and white thinking. It is or it isn't. Yeah. Patriarchy doesn't value intuition. It doesn't value anything like that. And so women, witches, they discredited the value of the material world. And then people in the Middle Ages had a profound distrust of the senses. They thought like the senses were the devil's playground, that the devil could like infiltrate their senses. I don't know exactly how they got to that point of thinking, but it was a crazy time. Anyway, so
I can speak to that a little bit. I feel like that's a Bible
yeah.
thing. I feel that's rooted in the Bible because they say that you can't trust your heart. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's so damaging, like right off the bat towards women's intuition and the power that it has, because it's like you are trained from a very early age to not trust yourself, to doubt yourself, to not go with that gut feeling that ends up saving lives.
Exactly. It's just, it's so
So much
frustrating
there.
because
Yeah.
yes. And then one of my favorite things to talk about from this time period was there was I don't know if it was like a trial, court case, whatever you want to call it. In 1322, there was a woman named Jacoba Felici, and she was a healer. And she was put on trial because she was practicing healing without any formal education. And so her patients, they would go to her after being failed by physicians. So they would go to her after physicians were told them, we can't do anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the patients claimed that she was more knowledgeable than any other physicians in Paris, and that she was actually curing these people that the physicians couldn't. And so she had multiple like witnesses to like testify like for her and said all good things about her, but she was found guilty, not because she was incompetent or because she was putting people in danger, but because she was a woman. And I think that is so interesting how that translates to today, because today, if you do not have like a medical degree in allopathic medicine, you can't speak on any sort of healing. Even doctors, like naturopathic doctors, they're seen as quacks, like any doctor outside of allopathic medicine, you're seen as like a crazy person and you're selling snake oil. And yet we see people coming to like holistic practitioners because they're failed by allopathic medicine. And they're like they're able to like heal themselves with the holistic practitioner's help, but it's like holistic practices are still discredited. It's just crazy to me. And
I feel like
it's
very
just crazy.
intentional. It's very intentional. It's something that I heard all the time, like operating the phones at that office, right? I've heard quacks a lot, being called a quack. And I know it varies from state to state in the United States. Like my doctor was certified, like a certified like naturopathic doctor in Vermont, but in Pennsylvania, that's not recognized as a thing. So she always had to be like, well, we're certified in Vermont. And they make it a point to not cover it by insurance, naturopathic care, which makes people even more unlikely to go to that unless they have money, right? They have to pay out of pocket. And I feel like that's why people maybe don't go to it as often as they should. They don't go to that length in order to be able to find a different approach to it, because not only is it not covered, like it's a huge expense out of pocket, it's also, they made sure to widely discredit and talk crap about naturopathic medicine, about chiropractors, right? And it's absolutely insane.
I know and there was even like during the popular health movement when, they closed down all the holistic schools and whatever, it was definitely intentional, because they, like the physicians, they phased out the midwives, like discredited them, saying they're like incompetent, they're dirty, like they don't know what they're doing. And I think it was in this book. Yeah. They said that they were just ignorant old wives, hence the like saying old wives' tales. I think that's, where that stems from. And there was this idea, Middle Ages, that there was female superstition versus male medicine. Men, like the male physicians, were put on more of like a moral and like intellectual plane above women healers, because it placed them on the side of God and the law. It's just so crazy, because all these practices like midwifery was phased out because of like these male physicians, and that, eventually women were forced to birth on their backs. Some still are coerced to birth on their backs. Like so many of these practices like were from male physicians. Like the invention of the chainsaw, like, you're kidding me. Like, I just cannot, for anyone who doesn't know, it was used to quote assist childbirth, for anyone who doesn't know what the invention of the chainsaw was used for initially. So it's just, there's so frustrating. And it's just, and I feel that the hatred of holistic practices, I think it does stem from misogyny, because holistic practices, like, that's very women based. But I also want to say,
I'm like, because women can't have their own thing. As soon as a woman tries to have her own thing, a man has to butt in and be like, you know what, we know uterus is better.
Exactly. And there's also the, I don't know if like racist is the right word, but there's an aspect, because there's also, you know, there were indigenous healing practices, you know, those aren't based on like pharmaceuticals, but they're still useful. Like, they're still used by different cultures. And I think discrediting that isn't okay. Like, I would trust an indigenous healer with my life. Like, if it came down to, like, are you kidding me? Like, I would trust them with my life. To me, it's just so hard to like see how someone can just think one way and one way only, because I don't know. I'm like, how can you only just think that one form of medicine is the only way to do it? It's just frustrating.
I agree that it's like very intentional, and I'm like trying to see it from a karmic point of view, because I see it as a cycle that keeps continuing, especially like with witchcraft. You see that same kind of cycle playing out in holistic health, like indigenous like wisdom and practices. So it just feels like it's so intentional, like they're trying to sever the connection between source and the human body, between trusting outside of yourself instead of a book and what a book says. Like, it feels like we're constantly being pushed to not trust our own knowledge, our own knowing, and seek it outside. Like, it's like we're constantly being programmed to seek something outside of ourselves to either heal us or make us better, instead of going inward and see how it's manifesting for us personally, because we all manifest all sorts of illnesses and symptoms completely differently, and the causes are completely different. So it feels like it's a very deliberate disconnect from source, from female like intuition and that kind of power, in order to keep people dependent on the systems that are trying to control us.
And it's also interesting that when you think about it, all holistic practices, it's the same concepts. It's all viewing the body as one whole moving part instead of, you know, separate systems. I mean, in allopathic medicine, you have something wrong, you have to go to this specialist and then this specialist. And sometimes you're like bouncing around and no one has answers. But the reality is you should probably be looking at the whole picture. And so a lot of holistic practices, they're based on the same, it's like the same idea, but somehow allopathic medicine is the only one that doesn't acknowledge the body as a whole. And all these ancient practices like Ayurveda is like thousands of years old. So I feel like, I don't know, just crazy idea. Like, maybe if people have been using it for thousands of years, maybe there is something there that works. I don't know.
Right. Wouldn't it be like canceled? Wouldn't it be shut down if it didn't work? Like, maybe a person will give it like a year and then, okay, this is total BS.
I know. That's what allopathic medicine is missing. I mean, there's like the energetic aspect. Like, in my practice, I'm even like trying to expand like the energetic aspect of it, because I think that energy is like a big root of it. And I think people, especially generationally, carry like trauma in their bodies.
Yes.
And I think that plays a big part, especially with women. I think their throat chakras, like they're unblocking their throat chakras, their sacral chakra, like, because when you think about women, you know, in the past, they were expected to bear children, you know, not just be about the children, about the family, but they didn't get to, I feel like, experience any pleasure, any creativity for themselves. Like, it was focused on everyone else. So I think
they didn't have an existence outside of servitude.
Yes. And so I think some women are like seeing the result of that. Like, it's going to boil over. Like, it's, you know, I think trauma, it boils over. And I think sometimes it ends up manifesting as like a physical, whether that be like chronic illness, disease, whatever you want to call it. But I think sometimes that trauma, that trapped energy in there, can lead to a physical manifestation of it.
Yeah, I feel like that's not often discussed in it's just not often discussed, like the fact that we aren't just our bodies, we're also souls, we're also energy, we also have auras and chakras, but also expanding on the fact that you said there could be generational stuff. Like, where did I hear, like, let me know if I'm quoting this wrong, but when our grandma was pregnant with our mothers already had the eggs in their ovaries that became us. So
Yes,
our grandmothers were literally carrying us when they were pregnant with our mothers. So this connection to like our ancestry, to the people that came before us, to the karmic cycles that our mothers and our grandmothers had to go through is very, very strong. And oftentimes like they will manifest even though we're not currently like in that kind of like situation, in that kind of like conflict. Our body remembers because it was already in our grandmother's body.
exactly. And I think a lot of the it's like misogyny, it's still present, like absolutely it is, but I think now it's definitely like more subtle because when we think of like our grandmothers, like maybe
Mm.
they would probably, there might have been, if she spoke out, maybe she was physically abused, something like that. Now it might not be as common, but I think it's more, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know, like not, I'm trying to think of an example where it would be more subtle. Maybe saying like women are too emotional to lead, like things like that, like just like little digs that are just like so unnecessary, and it's still like misogyny,
It
but
feels like we should be like way past that point,
Mhm.
developmentally wise, but like I remember seeing like this clip of a woman kind of debating that, like you can't even like, I think she was like a newscaster and she was telling another like anchor, she's like, can you tell that I'm on my period right now or not? Like if women are so emotional that like they can't be trusted to have careers or like lead, then tell me whether or not I'm on my period right now. And the guy's like, well, I don't know. It's like, because yeah, there's this stigma around it, there's this belief that has been ingrained in us since we were kids. And I feel like yes, it's more covert, but it depends on what part of the world you're in and what kind of like dynamics you have at home. But hearing that from a very early age, it kind of just perpetuates that, especially for women to not be the ones that raise up their hand in class all the time and speak out even though somebody else is interrupting them. I've had that happen with my 10-year-old. Like it's like in this day and age, it's like 2025. My kid came back from school and she's like, there's this kid that will not stop interrupting me whenever I'm talking. And I'm like, I was talking. She said, I was talking. And the kid's like, so you're a girl. And it's like, you can tell there's some dynamics at play going on in his home life, but it feels like it just keeps repeating. Even though I do agree it's more discreet, I feel like a lot of men are learning like therapy speak in order to be able to still instill that control and that kind of idea that women are too emotional or on their periods or this and that.
exactly. And I have seen, and that even translates to women, their voices not being heard, them dismissing their own feelings and even like symptoms. Like I have had probably hundreds of women at this point across like my social media telling stories about how they were dismissed by a physician. And it's just like some of the stories, I'm like, no way these people are actually like practicing medicine, because they'll be like, well, I went in for like this pain, but they told me it was just my period, but it wasn't my period. And then it ends up being like a life threatening thing where they like needed like medical care, like emergency care. And like one of the most common things that I hear from women is that they're told that their period pain, I'm not talking like mild cramping, I'm talking like, writhing in pain on the couch, can't get up, can't function like a normal human being. They're being told that that's normal, like it's just a normal part of being a
Oh my
woman.
God.
And it's like, it's just insane that it's allopathic medicine is so behind in that realm. Like even when I was a teenager, I had really heavy periods. I mean, they're pretty painful. I thought it was just part of, being a woman. That's what we're all told. And then eventually I went on birth control and then had some unwanted side effects. And that's what a lot of women go through because they're not actually being heard. And that
Women are
idea
just
that,
sorry, I
sorry,
don't mean to interrupt.
no, you're
Women are
okay.
just expected to like put up with pain better
Yes.
than men. I feel like I heard that men are given stronger like medicine, like after like dental surgery and everything, and women just get an ibuprofen. It's
Mm.
like because women are so used to it, they're not speaking out. They're like, okay, like I'll just put up with it. So there's so much there. Can we also talk about how a lot of times like studies are only done on men? Sleep studies are only like the ones that they have where they recommend 8 hours of sleep. Women need 10 or more to function. And I've heard some people talk about this and be like, when you're in a situation where you have a newborn, it's important to remember that women need more hours of sleep to function. The study that they did when deciding how much a human being needs to like sleep to function was done solely on men, not on women. And the guy was suggesting every single time that you can, if like the baby doesn't need to be like breastfed or whatever, you should be the one that's waking up in the middle of the night and taking care of the baby, like helping it fall back asleep instead of the woman, because you have a better shot at being able to function and fulfill, like do your duties throughout the day than a woman, because we need more rest. That also made me remember that there's this whole craze about cold plunging. And I know Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, is very, very against women even drinking cold drinks specifically because we need to keep our wombs warm. So when I found out that only men were studied when they were like, oh, cold plunging is so good for your health and it's like has all these benefits, they never considered doing that study on a woman because they just, it's so funny. They say that we're so different. They say that we're so different, but when it comes to health, they're like, we're the same. We don't need to also interview women and also study women.
I know I mean, women weren't even involved in clinical trials until I think the year was 1990. Don't quote me on that number, but it was sometime in the 90s. Yeah. Yeah, women weren't even included in studies in the 90s. And so, I mean, really any studies like that do involve women, they're fairly new. And I know there's hardly any studies on things like endometriosis. Like those are definitely lacking in studies. Pretty much any women-based issue is going to be lacking, but we have plenty of studies on male pattern baldness, on erectile dysfunction, because God forbid.
I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
I would have if you didn't. We got a pill
so
for
we
erectile dysfunction, but
I
we don't
know.
have anything for PCOS.
I know. Why would we help women with their health issues?
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the issue of just giving women birth control for things like PCOS or endometriosis or painful periods. That is like seen as the only solution that women are given. I didn't think anything of it. That's what I did for my painful periods. And then when I learned I didn't have to be on birth control for painful periods, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm getting off of this thing and I'm taking care of my own body. There's deeper things going on, and I literally wish I could tell every single woman who has like any sort of period type issue that it is not normal, and there's like a deeper rooted issue going on that is leading to that pain, because it's not normal. Like point blank, should not be happening. It could either be like a mineral deficiency. I've learned mineral deficiencies, I feel like, are a big one that are not that's not talked about enough. So that's a big one. I mean, other nutrient deficiencies like vitamin D, omega-3s, just all these things that could be contributing to these issues, but they're not being looked into by conventional providers. And it's like huge pieces of the puzzle that are missing, but we're not looking there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much there. I remember like going to all of these fairs with my boss, like with the homeopathic doctor, and we were interviewing women, and I remember like finding out that periods are only supposed to be 3 to 5 days long, and they're not supposed to be like a huge heavy flow the entire time. They're also not supposed to like have discoloration or like huge clots, and they're not supposed to be painful. When I found that out, my mind was like blown. I'm like, what do you mean? Because this whole entire time, I remember when I started having a period, I was like 12 years old. I had absolutely no symptoms. And I remember almost like wanting symptoms. I'm like, I thought like I was supposed to like be like all tired and emotional and like have headaches or like stomach pain. I had nothing. And it was like later on in life, I feel like I got some like hormone imbalance issues, like because of stress. that it started changing, but initially I didn't feel anything. So I know that's kind of like the bar that we're supposed to be at. And instead of kind of trying to bring women back into that like neutral zone, the neutral area, like they're just like, oh, like just take some Midol, take some Tylenol, take some this, take some that. And it doesn't really solve anything.
I know. And by telling women that their pain is normal, we're telling them that they can't trust their intuition. They can't trust their bodies. They can't trust their pain signals. It's like, oh my gosh, it is such a huge mess. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about your work with women and what somebody can expect in a session with you, what you can guide them through, what kind of services you can offer?
Yeah. So there's the Reiki, the energy healing. That's pretty straightforward, energy healing. But my container with my integrative work, that's like a 6-month long thing because I don't feel that you can't get results from like 1 or 2 appointments. Like you got to be committed. So like I said earlier, we go through everything. That includes functional lab testing. Are you familiar with functional lab testing?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about it, touch on it a little bit. So functional labs, well, here, let me take a couple steps back. So conventional labs, like the regular old blood draw you would probably get at the doctor, just like your routine blood draw, that tells what your body's at, like at that exact moment. And it's a wide range of normal. It's either, because it's based off of the population average. So it's like the normal range is like huge. So it's either normal or abnormal. So a lot of people, they'll still experience symptoms, but their lab results will come back normal. And that's why, it's because that range of normal, it's like, well, these are the normal results. And then doctors are like, oh, results are normal. Sorry, nothing I can do. But functional labs, their range is, it's more like normal or optimal, dysfunction, and then abnormal. So functional labs can help people detect when they're in that dysfunction. So they're still like experiencing symptoms, but not, but their lab results aren't enough to get a diagnosis, because that's what that normal, like the conventional labs, like that abnormal result is. That's like a diagnosis type of deal. I want to say most of the time, maybe not across the board, but a lot of the time. So the functional labs can help like read between the lines and help maybe catch what conventional labs might miss. Like for example, one of the labs I offer is like a hair tissue mineral analysis, and that you get like your mineral levels and heavy metals, but it's not like a blood draw. So you're getting like a hair sample from, it'll be like your levels will be based on the past 2 or 3 months. And so that shows me how your body is actually using those minerals.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're like, and if your ratios are off, like if your magnesium's low, like maybe that might tell me, oh my gosh, I think the stress is kind of like taking out some of that magnesium. So you can just get those missing puzzle pieces that you may not get with a conventional lab. So yeah, do you have any questions about that? I missed
I
anything?
did.
Okay.
So when you're getting blood work drawn, you're saying that it can't really give you that history that you need in regards to what's happening with your body. It's more like it changes more often than like something that like a hair follicle, like it can give you like a broader history.
Yes, it can. And some things on a like conventional lab like are still necessary. Like on the hair tissue mineral analysis, it offers iron, but iron isn't really reliable for a hair sample. So that would be something where a conventional lab could still be beneficial. And blood is, what's the word? Homeostatic. I think that's the right word, where it tries to like bring things back into balance. So it's not really showing what your body's using, like how it's using it, that type of deal. So it's just like, I like to say my practice, it's like filling in the gaps of allopathic medicine, more or less. It's not replacing, Western medicine or pharmaceuticals or whatever, but it's like filling in the gaps where we might be missing something if you went to a physician. Is how I like to view it.
And that's a very healthy way to see it. I'm thinking like solely from a karmic perspective. Anytime somebody takes any side to either extreme, they end up having like accruing karma for it. And then I end up seeing it pop up on their soul contracts. And I'm like, okay, like this is something that you need to heal from a past life. So it's very fitting that you are in the line of work that you are in. first of all, based off of your past life. And it's also a very healthy, like spiritual and karmic path to recognize that there's a gray area. It's not just black and white all the time. There's room for evolvement. There's room for other people's opinions, and you don't have to get triggered by other people having opinions. I feel like that's a sign of just like basic emotional intelligence, that like you can let other people not agree with what you say and not have like this strong attack to it or emotional reaction to it. So it's one of the most common things that I come across in my line of work, like karmically, being very quick to like only be like, this is the only right way to do it, and this is how we're going to do it. And I feel like patriarchy does that. I feel like patriarchy nourishes that so deeply within us to like be in this box and not step outside of anything, not be brave enough to be curious about like maybe there's a better way for this to happen. It kind of keeps people in the dark ages. It keeps people stuck in the same loop and pattern and doesn't allow a lot of room for growth. But if you didn't have anything else that you wanted to add on based on that, do you want to take a look at your soul contract?
I would love to. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited because it's very rare that I see one as karmically light as yours. And some of the soul contracts that I come across, I mean, I look at a lot of celeb soul contracts and like public figures, politicians, oftentimes, because you have to at this point of our incarnation. A lot of the times the karma is very heavy. The heaviest karmas I come across are where like somebody is taking away somebody's free will. And I feel like those people, the people that have that karma, are the ones that were doing the oppression, right? The ones that were doing like the Salem witch trials, like they were trying desperately to control, and that is coming from a place of fear. People fear what they don't know, what they're not familiar with. They feel being out of control, but that's a separate topic. Your soul contract has a karma from not utilizing your gifts. So in a previous life, you also had this propensity for knowing magical knowledge. And this is the kind of work that you're doing is considered magical knowledge because it's knowledge that's kind of outside of yourself. You're outsourcing it from the divine. You are trusting and leaning into your intuition and into your body in order to be able to assess what's going on, in order to be able to heal and help other people. And in a past life, you also had this kind of ability. So I would not be surprised at all if you were one of like the midwives that was persecuted for healing people successfully and putting doctors out of business, essentially. But that's the karma that you have working for you because in this past life, it feels like you weren't as brave as you are now. You weren't as brave to be like, oh, hey, like, I'm a curandera, or I am a midwife, or I'm an herbalist. It feels like at your passive incarnation, like there was a lot more resistance to that kind of work. So you felt like you had to internalize it. Maybe if you felt like somebody was open to that kind of thing, you were like, hey, like I could help you out with that, like if you want to come to my house later, but you weren't as like practicing. And that's something that your soul agreed to heal in this incarnation. You specifically incarnated into the body, you incarnated into the family and lifestyle that you incarnated to, in order to be able to heal that and be like, okay, I have this innate knowledge. My soul knows this innate knowledge because it's something that's not available to everybody. Not everybody comes to the conclusion, right, that there's something outside of Western medicine or Eastern medicine. It's an innate knowledge that your soul carries. You remember it. That's why you were drawn to it. And in this lifetime, you get to act on it. You get to put your work out there and help the number of people that you help because you have, like, you're ready. Your soul is more not adapted. I feel like well adjusted in order to be able to take something like this on, whereas previously it might not have been safe for you to do so. So
Yeah.
that's why I
Sorry.
got excited when I took a look at it. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't wait to touch on this. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I would like to validate what you said because I've gotten my Akashic records read before, and my primary soul gift in this life is divine truth. So very much like in my secondary soul gift, it was very much like third eye and crown chakra. So like knowledge that I'm just like
Channeling.
given to like share, which has been a struggle for me because I'm a recovering like people pleaser, and like, you know, fear of being perceived, like, and posting on social media can be a little scary, especially with what I do. It's very polarizing. A lot of things that I say can be very triggering to people. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't like what I have to say, but I'm like, it's just my truth. I'm sorry.
That's the thing. That's likely where that wound is coming for you from where that wound is coming for you. And yeah, I feel like that's why you were like hesitant to share it before, but now you've kind of, I feel like the universe has kind of pressed you up against a wall, and they're like, no, you have to do this time around. You can't just go by without sharing your gifts, without sharing what it is that you know. And that makes so much sense that your crown chakra is open, because you're channeling all of this knowledge from somewhere, and it's not from inside you.
Yeah, that was definitely, you said getting, you know, knowledge from like an outside source, and I was like, that definitely tracks with my Akashic records.
And one of the things that I love, and this is also a program that I have, so I feel like this is why we drive so well, because I feel like it's a lesson that we've had to overcome. It's a lesson that we've had to learn. We've had to learn like moderation. We have this tendency of getting really excited about something almost like obsessively, and we kind of have to draw ourselves back and find balance. And maybe that's particularly why you have been doing the work that you are doing with like, because I'm seeing this come up like not as an addiction to like vices or to like binge eating, right? Because it usually manifests as some sort of addiction. It feels like it's more manifesting for you from a medical standpoint, where you're like, it can't just be one thing. It can't just be one-sided, where like it's only Western medicine or allopathic medicine that's recognized. You've come back to find like that there's a balance that needs to happen, where you're not leaning like totally against everything modern medicine or like the opposite of that. And that's showing up as the binge program in your chart. I like the binge program when it's manifesting like positively, because it talks to how much inner energy you have. You're like a ray of sunshine. And that's also showing up because you were born on the 3rd. Okay, I didn't even touch on your personality. I really love people that were born on the 3rd, because the day that you were born in, that's like your soul's essence. And your soul essence is basically the Queen of Pentacles. It's very nurturing, it's very abundant. And I feel like you chose to incarnate on that specific day because of the line of work that you're in, because you really, really need to tap into that divine feminine energy. And that is what the 3 represents. It's a very spiritual number. And the 6 that you have is the lover girl energy. You are all about, like, this incarnation for you was all about finding relationships, finding community, and being kind of a pillar of your community, a pillar in your family, somebody that's just dependable. And I wouldn't be surprised if you like are obsessed with romantic comedies or like used to binge chick flicks like when you were a teenager, because I feel like I did that like crazy. But 6s were specifically incarnated to experience that kind of both self-love and love outside of yourself, the unconditional love that you can get from a partner, from a child. That was very, very important to you. And usually I see that manifest in souls that didn't get a chance to experience that the last time around. They're like, okay, I did not have a supportive partner. I had an abusive partner, and I really need to make sure that this go around I can experience support, experience unconditional love. So I love that those are your 2 primary numbers, the 3 and the 6, because it just speaks to, I'm losing my voice a little bit here. It just speaks to you manifesting as a matriarch. It just speaks to you being incarnated to be a very, very powerful source of feminine energy, and to showcase that to the world, what a healthy feminine energy looks like. So I hope that's some validation for you, because I absolutely love 3 and 10 are one of my favorite numbers, because they're numbers of abundance. And I'm like, okay, like who would say no to some abundance? But 3 is like so Queen of Pentacles, like you know what you want. And I feel like when you really stand in that energy that you inherently have at your core, you can reach like the highest of potentials, like the biggest dreams that you have, you can get them.
Yeah, that also definitely tracks. You said Lover Girl, and I was like, oh my gosh, that definitely. I'm a Libra rising and a Libra moon, so I definitely have like that hopeless
romantic vibe. Yes,
yes,
that's
yeah.
the number. Yep, it's the number of the hopeless romantic.
Yes, I do have a tendency to yearn. God forbid a girl yearns, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I did watch, like, when I was a teenager, like watching Twilight, I'd be like, oh, can't wait for that love to find me one day. You know?
Yes.
Those types of things. You said Lover Girl, and I was like, oh, yep, there it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And oh man, I wanted to say something else about the three. The three, for threes, it doesn't take much for them to manifest what it is that they want. You really just have to like think it, like you really have to like, you don't have to do much because you have that attraction to you, like that power to draw the things that you want to manifest into your life, just because like you're this big beautiful like ray of sunshine. Like the universe just sees you out of everybody, like you stand out soul wise. Like I'm not trying to like hate on any of the other numbers, but it's just like this magnetism that you have to you that's very, very powerful. And I feel like I could feel that when you were posting on your threads. I'm like, we would get along. There's something about her.
I know. I feel like I just, like, when I post online, I feel like people either really like my content or they really don't like it. I feel like it's just so polarizing, but it's good to know that some people actually see the side that I'm not like, I don't know, like a crazy person, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like your light kind of triggers like the shadow in other people. So like whether you're attracting like positive or negative attention, you're still attracting attention. So maybe that's like kind of a downside of the number three. But if you know how to kind of, oh man, not polarize, how to clean that attention. Bad publicity is good, is good publicity.
Mm-hmm.
Like no, that's not what it says. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
I know, I knew what you were trying to say.
Like transmuting the bad attention too, because it still gets eyes on you, like it still gets your message out there, and it's like free advertising.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's what I've always been like. It's just like what is it? Some sort of law of balance where there's like good, there's gonna be some bad. You know, it's just like a balance. You're gonna have both. You know, if you have some good, then you're gonna have some bad. It's just the way it is. It's the way the cookie crumbles.
Speaking of, that is literally the destiny number that you incarnated here to do. Like, as soon as you mentioned balance, I'm like, she has a number 9. So your overall destiny is the number 9, and you specifically wanted to learn how to find the balance in like the things you want to do, like in your interests. Your soul was meant to kind of learn to not either go to one extreme or the other. So it's very, very interesting that you've kind of picked up on that on your own, but not surprising again, because that crown chakra is hella active.
Yeah, I know. I do have like also like 3 Gemini planets in my chart. So between the Libra and like the Gemini, I'm very like adaptable, and if I like to look at both sides. So I feel like I'm pretty level-headed, but sometimes that has gotten me into trouble being too level-headed within like, you know, relationships and whatnot, but I digress.
Too much like trying to see
benefit of the doubt type of deal, just kind of that's the downside of that, where I'm like, well, I see why you did that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mallory. It was such a pleasure. I love your energy and I love your soul contract.
Thank you. Yeah,
I feel like we didn't touch on as much of it as we could, because you are packing light this incarnation, this time around. It's not to mean that like you're not going to have any hard lessons, but from the go around, it just means that you didn't like, you're not like an overachiever that's like, you know what, let me like bang out all of the bad karma that I have.
Yeah.
You're like, let's just enjoy this go around. But yeah, do you want to like plug anything? Like, where can listeners find you, book a session with you?
Yes, I'm kind of working out some like my booking and whatnot. I'm working out that stuff, but if you can message me, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, the Holistic Mallori. I also just made a YouTube account. It's not a lot there right now, but I am now on YouTube. But it's the Holistic Mallori. I try to keep it consistent across my my platforms, but that's just message me if you want to book anything. That's probably the best way to do that right now. So,
and I'll be sure to link that in the bio for you because it's Mallori with an I, not a Y.
It is Mallori with an I. Yes,
I noticed that.
It's a doozy. Yes.
All right. And if you guys wanted to get your own soul contract, you can do so by going to the soulecosystem.com or my Etsy page, The Soul Ecosystem, to find out what you agreed to incarnate to do in this incarnation. Thank you. That was like a lot of like incarnation. How many times did I say incarnation? Thank you guys so much for joining us, and see you guys next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend.